Hi, my name is Jared, and this is Horror Obsession. Today, I want to wrap up my review of the Fear Street trilogy with a discussion of Fear Street 1666. If you want my thoughts on the first two installments, check out those videos linked below. For 1666, let's start with a spoiler-free review. Fear Street 1666 is a bit of a letdown compared to 1978, which I loved, so that doesn't mean Fear Street 1666 is a bad movie or that it isn't worth your time. I enjoyed the movie, and if you've made it through 1978, you basically have to watch this final chapter, which speaks to the well-constructed overall narrative in the sense it causes you to want to watch how the story concludes. Having such a strong movie directly precedes 1666 makes watching this movie essentially mandatory, so if you haven't seen it, just check it out. I was invested enough with the characters, it was hard to imagine just skipping this movie, and by the end I was glad these movies were made and that I got to watch them, flaws and all. In the same way, I was glad when Kanye came out with Life of Pablo, even though it was no Graduation or even My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. That being said, it is a far from perfect ending to the story, and I have quite a few gripes with this movie, which, like my cat when she sees me come home with a giant cardboard box, I will get into later. On second thought, let's just get started with spoilers now. So there's your warning. If you haven't seen the movie, just go watch it. I know you've got Netflix, and if you're watching this, you've probably got some time to kill. Alright, so 1666 starts right where 1978 left off, with Dina having been transported back in time to when the Shadyside Witch Curse first started. The first major disappointment comes just 24 seconds into the movie, or just about the same time it takes me to disappoint my girlfriend. Dina is just Sarah Fier, with all of her memories, knowledge, and personality, so we are left watching a story play out in which we already know the outcome. Anyone who thought Sarah Fier was going to be the actual witch in the series, I envy your childlike innocence, and I bet you like a lot of movies. For everyone else, we are left with a story that somewhat painstakingly reveals what we already know. Sarah Fier got framed for being a witch, probably because she's lesbian, and definitely because of male patriarchy. So the question is, can Leah Janiak construct an interesting enough narrative to maintain our attention even though we already know exactly what is going to happen? The answer is, almost. I was engaged throughout the early part of this movie, and I enjoyed watching the story, though I wish they weren't played by the same actors with different names. I am bad enough at names without having to cross the facial recognition wires in my brain. I was hoping Dina would be transported back in time to Sarah Fier's body with her knowledge of the present day, and have to navigate a society and time she was completely unprepared to navigate in order to alter the past to prevent the Shadyside Curse from ever coming to be. Sadly, this was not the case, but this is overall more of a personal nitpick than an actual problem with the movie. The 1666 portion of the movie moves along very nicely and goes by pretty fast, and the church scene is spectacularly creepy. The story kind of falls apart at the end, and once again, major spoilers here, but there are two really bizarre choices for the plot one after another. First, when Sarah is being accused of witchcraft, she's all like, "Witchcraft? That's preposterous. I would never do a deal with the devil. Hannah, I am so pissed. Want to do a deal with the devil?" Next, once Sarah Fier goes back to Solomon Good's house to try and avoid persecution by the rest of the town, I couldn't help but laugh at the shocking implausibility of the story. Sarah hides in Solomon's basement and ends up stumbling on a satanic ritual. Oh, also, quick aside, while Sarah is looking at the Satan-worshipping circle trying to figure out what it is, my girlfriend and I could not stop laughing. It is basically the "it's blood" scene from the Thanksgiving fake trailer, in terms of how obvious it is what she's looking at.
It's blood. Son of a bitch.
A mysterious satanic symbol carved in stone. And a goat's head. What is this mysterious liquid? Ooh, a book. Wait a minute. A simple exchange. Damn, I wish I could read cursive. Eventually, she puts two and two together, which might actually be a more difficult equation to solve than what she's looking at, and concludes that it is showing that Solomon is the one who cursed the town. This is crucial information since there is now extremely obvious
It's blood. Son of a bitch.
undeniable physical evidence which not only exonerates Sarah and Hannah, but also proves Solomon's guilt. The only thing that Sarah has to do is to convince anyone in the town to come take a look, and she and the love of her life are completely off the hook. And what's more, the curse will be broken. So what does she do to try and convince the town to check under the house, completely fixing all of her and Hannah's problems and totally saving the town? Nothing. Solomon walks out and says he caught the witch, and she does nothing. She doesn't try to convince them it's really Solomon. She doesn't frantically scream and yell at the town, desperate to try and save her own life and Hannah's. She does nothing. This isn't even that hard of a plot point to fix. The entire point of the first half of this movie is the unfair accusations women used to face in those times, and that their credibility was basically zero unless backed up by a man. So why doesn't Janiak use this? You have to have a scene where Sarah is all like, oh my god, you guys, Solomon is totally the devil worshipper. He has a giant satanic cult thingy under his house. Just go check. If it isn't there, go ahead and kill me, but you gotta at least check. Solomon can counter this by saying, that's ridiculous. She is just saying that because she wants to try and save herself. Witches are notorious tricksters. Don't believe her. Let's just hang her. Naturally, the townsfolk believe the man because women's social standing in early America was pretty much non-existent, which is the entire point of the story. So including this scene not only makes Sarah's subsequent confession to save Hannah more believable, but also hammers home the message of the movie. Another eye-rolling moment is when the entire town goes to Solomon's house and doesn't find her, and then 5 minutes later he comes out and is all like, oh look you guys, I found her. That's funny. She was just standing right here next to all of you, but I definitely wasn't involved in any way. One hallmark of lazy script writing is making characters ignore obvious evidence or perform completely unrealistic actions because it drives the plot in the direction the writers want, without all the trouble of having a story that actually makes sense. Why did Leah Janiak skip the scene of Sarah trying to convince the townsfolk of the most important information she has ever obtained and go straight to the execution scene? It's not because she can't conclude stories and couldn't figure out how to realistically write the scene. That's not why. Why would you say that? So Sarah confesses to save Hannah, which would be tragic, except at this point in the story, I was still expecting Sarah to at least try to save her own life, since presumably she is still a living organism with a survival instinct. The town also instantly believes her confession, another, ambitious moment in the script that makes you wonder if anyone proofread this thing. So, the town is completely riled up with religious hysteria that Hannah and Sarah bewitched them, killing like 16 kids and forever ruining all of their lives. And one of the accused convinces them the other one is innocent in like 20 words. It's too bad she didn't use her super convincing orator skills to get the town to check under Solomon's basement, or she could have saved Hannah's and her own life, but whatever. Janiak jumps back to the present time to wrap up the story, and does a reasonably competent job of doing this. Some familiar Fear Street foibles are still present, including some jarring editing, poor acting, and Janiak even includes one of my pet peeve tropes, which is where someone needs blood for some kind of ritual or something, and so uses a knife or dagger to cut the palm of their hand, the actual worst place in your body you could possibly cut right before a dangerous, high-stakes situation. Cut the back of your hand so you can still hold things, you idiot. Or your forearm, or like your leg, or your thigh or something. Not the one place you grip weapons with. That's going to be bleeding now and make your hand all slippery so you can't grab someone to save their life, or even like open doorknobs correctly. I hope this trope ends because it's stupid beyond belief. There are a couple things about the final confrontation which annoyed me, one of which is minor and the other of which is not. The minor one is the fact that kids wrote "good is evil" in paint all over the walls of the mall, giving away the fact they solved the mystery of who the big bad guy is, and putting good on guard. The audience knows now, so I guess that means all the characters in the movie know. Apparently, Janiak thinks her audience is a bunch of idiots that won't notice basic continuity like this, on full display with my next gripe as well, the curse itself. They say the curse is being passed down generation to generation, and the kids think if they kill Sheriff Good, the curse will end. The mayor of Sunnyvale is also a good, and has been using the curse to win elections and get rich and stuff. So why do they think killing Sheriff Good will end the curse? They say it passes down firstborn to firstborn, but as far as I can tell, there is zero evidence this is the case, other than Janiak's decision to cast the same actor to play Solomon Good and Sheriff Good. I might be missing something, so if you know how they deduce Sheriff Good is the one doing the cursing, please let me know. From the evidence we get, wouldn't they need to kill the sheriff and the mayor and his kids to be absolutely sure? I mean, this is a rated R horror movie trilogy. Why not make your main characters make the horrible choice of either allowing the curse to continue and consume Sam, or to kill the mayor and his kids? That would be an interesting ending to the story. Oh, and their plan to attract all the demon things to the mall to kill the sheriff? This is the most complex, convoluted plan of all time to kill someone. He is the one using the curse to summon the demons in the first place. How do they know he can't just control them? They use Britta to lure him in and get the blood on him so they can assault him with his own demons, but why don't they just use the gun we know they have and wait till he goes to sleep and sneak into his house and shoot him in the head?
Why don't you just kill him?
No, Scott, I have an even better idea. I'm going to place him in an easily escapable situation involving an overly elaborate and exotic death.
Why don't you just shoot him now? I mean, I'll go get a gun. We'll shoot him together.
I mean, they'd still have to swing by the mayor's house for a good old-fashioned extirpation, but shooting the sheriff is at least a good start. Despite all of these flaws, I did enjoy the final entry in the trilogy. 1666 was significantly weaker than 1978, which was easily the best movie in the bunch. Janiak really struggles when she is forced to try and write introductions or conclusions to stories, or writing emotional cores to stories, especially love stories, though her kill scenes and her horror scenes worked pretty well throughout. This is basically like saying she is all sizzle and no steak, which is how I feel about the Fear Street trilogy as a whole. The plotline is a completely jumbled mess with contrivances that would make my 6-year-old daughter roll her eyes, character motivations which make no sense and change scene to scene based on what is convenient to the writers, abusive and unrealistic love stories, and some actually pretty great horror. Fear Street was worth my time, and I am glad I watched it, but I don't really have any plans to watch it ever again, except maybe 1978. I actually feel like just watching that movie by itself is what I'm going to be recommending to my friends moving forward, since you do miss the plot and setup to the movie, but that plot and setup is extremely stupid, so it's probably best to just ignore it. Unless you yourself have a devastating horror obsession, in which case, go ahead and check out the whole trilogy. Just remember to check your brain at the door and you'll be fine.